Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be creating a Bootstrap 4 beta theme. Okay, so Bootstrap was just upgraded to beta. I think it was like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. And this is actually from my Bootstrap 4 from scratch course, which I initially created in Bootstrap Alpha. Unfortunately, a couple days later, they upgraded it to beta, so I had to redo the whole course. But long story short, I do have a 5-project course that you may want to check out. This is one of the projects. Okay, so this is the course right here. It's actually on sale for only $10 now, which is a Udemy sale, but you may want to check that out. It has a 4.9 rating. It has learning sections as well as the project sections. All right, now for our workflow, we're going to be using the Bootstrap 4 starter pack, which we actually created in the course. And what this does is it uses Gulp, which is a JavaScript task runner, to compile our Bootstrap from source, compile all of our Sass, load up a dev server, and then move the correct files that we need from our node modules to our source folder, including jQuery and Popper, which are dependencies of Bootstrap 4, as well as Font Awesome. Okay, so this pack includes all of those, and literally all we have to do is install them with npm install, and then npm start will start up our dev server. Now, as far as the project itself, it's a theme called LoopLab. It's a one-page theme. I think it's really clean looking. Basically, we have a transparent navbar at the top, which is fixed. You'll see it will stay at the top no matter what. Then we have this showcase area with a background image. We applied an overlay using CSS. Then we're using the grid system here. These checkbox, this area right here, is actually using flexbox. Okay, so it's using the new dflex class in Bootstrap 4. Over here we have a card with a form in it. Okay, the card is using the primary background color. And then down here we have basically 3 sections: explore, create, and share. And each section has a header with some text and a button. Okay, we're using the new outline buttons that Bootstrap 4 uses. And then we have some more checkboxes. We have some stock images from pexels.com. You'll see the create section, the share section, and then the footer just has a button that's going to open up a contact modal. And the navigation will just bring us around to certain spots in the theme. All right, so very, very simple. It's also completely responsive. If we go ahead and make this smaller, you'll see that for, I think that's large screens, extra large, and then when we get to medium, it's going to get rid of the text in the showcase, and it's just going to have the form here. All right, and then you can see that everything still looks really good, still very responsive. If we go down really small, you'll see that the links here will go away, and we get the hamburger menu where we can just have this this drop down. All right, so pretty simple but pretty clean theme, and I think you'll learn a lot about the new Bootstrap 4 classes and so on. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoy this, and let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is set up our Bootstrap 4 starter pack. All we have to do is you can either clone it using Git, or you can just download it. I'm just going to download the zip right here, and the link is in the description, by the way. And we're going to go ahead and just open that up. And we want these files here. So we have the source folder, the gulp, the package.json, and you don't actually need the README. But we'll grab these files here. And actually, let's create a project folder first. So we're going to call this LoopLab. And we'll bring these files over. All right, and feel free to use this starter pack in all your Bootstrap 4 projects. So now what we want to do is open up a command line or a terminal in the LoopLab folder. I'm using Git Bash for Windows, so I'm going to go ahead and just open that up. If you want Git Bash, you can just go to git-scm.com and you can download it here. It's also available for Mac. All right, so in here, like the documentation says, we just want to run npm install. That's going to install Bootstrap 4 beta. It's going to install Popper and jQuery, which are dependencies, and then the dev dependencies. So let's go ahead and say npm install. All right, so once that's done, we should be able to run our server by just saying npm start. And there we go. So we have our Bootstrap 4 beta starter. So we're going to leave this running, this server, and let's go over to VS Code, and we're just going to open up the LoopLab folder. Okay, we'll close that up. And what you're going to see here is your gulp file. You don't need to pay any attention to this stuff. This is just all the tasks to compile SAS and move around our files and all that. Now, if you look in your source folder, just from running npm start, what it did is it took all of the Bootstrap files, so Bootstrap CSS, all the Bootstrap JavaScript, and all the dependencies, jQuery, popper. It took it from the node modules folder and brought it over to our source folder. Okay, because the source folder is going to be your final directory where you just want to upload to your web host. All right, it has the compiled CSS, style.css, from the style.scss file. So any CSS you want to add, you want to use your SAS file. Okay, that way you can use variables and stuff like that. All right, so let's go ahead and open up the index.html. This is what it looks like. Very, very simple. It's just including font awesome, Bootstrap, our style sheet, okay, all the compiled stuff, and then our JavaScript, Bootstrap JavaScript and the dependencies. Okay, and if we open up our console F12, you shouldn't see any errors down here. So let's get started on our project. First thing we want to create is the nav bar. All right, so we're going to get rid of, actually, first of all, let's change the title here to, we'll say LoopLab. And then we're going to just get rid of this H1. We don't need that. And we're going to create our nav bar. So let's say nav. Now I am using Emmet. Okay, Emmet comes default with VS Code. If you want to use it on Atom or Sublime Text, you'll have to add it as a dependency. I'm sorry, not a dependency, a plugin or an extension. So we're going to create a nav tag, and we're going to give it a couple classes. So one, we want a class of navbar. We also want a class of navbar-expand, and I'm going to do -sm. Now what this does is this is going to tell it when we want the little hamburger menu, the responsive menu, to show up. And I want it to show up on small screens. Okay, if you want it to show up on, like, let's say medium screens, you could do MD or you could do LG. If you did, you could also do XL, but that would just, it would always be in that state. But we're going to do SM. Now in Bootstrap for Alpha, this was toggleable. Okay, it was navbar toggleable, and then the size. So just keep that in mind. It's now expand. Now for the background color, I want it to be a dark color, so we're going to use the BG dark class. All right, and then in order for the navbar to have light text, we want to use navbar dark. Okay, that's telling it that the navbar is going to be dark, so we need light text. And then I also want to fix it to the top, so we're going to give it a class of fix top. And then we'll go ahead and tab, and now we have a nav with all those classes. All right, now inside the nav, we're going to have a container, because the content inside the navbar I want to restrict to the middle. Now we're going to need our branding or our logo, so that'll be an A tag with the class of navbar-brand. Okay, and this is just going to go to, let's say, index.html. All right, and then for the branding, we're just going to say LoopLab. All right, so if we were to save that, you'll see that it auto-loads, and we have our little navbar. So next thing we want to put under the branding is the collapse button. So it's only going to show up on small screens, but we still have to put it in. So it's going to go right under the A tag. We're going to put in button. It's going to have a class of navbar-toggler. And then it's also going to need a couple extra attributes. So it's going to need one called data toggle. We want to set that to collapse. And then it also needs a data target because it needs to know what to collapse down. So we're going to give this an ID of hash navbar collapse. Let me just turn on word wrap here. All right, and I guess I'll just make this bigger. All right, so we have our button. It has a class. It has data toggle, data target. Now inside the button, we're going to want a span, and we're going to give this a class of navbar-toggler. Oops. Toggler-icon. okay, and then nothing in there. That's going to give us the little icon with the lines. So let's go ahead and actually save that, and if we go back to our project, you'll see that when we make this go down to a small size, the icon appears. Now, we don't have our menu or anything, so nothing happens, but you'll see that it will appear on small screens. If we were to change this to expand MD and save, you'll see that even if we go bigger, it's still there until we get out of the MD. If we put this to LG and save that and go back, you'll see that it'll stay there until we hit large, until we hit extra large. Alright, but I prefer to have it SM, just on small screens. So now what we're going to do is go under the button, and we're going to have a div with the class of collapse as well as navbar collapse. Alright, and we're also going to give it an ID, and the ID should match whatever you have for the data target here, so navbar collapse, except that you don't want the hash in there. And then in this div is where we're going to put our UL. Okay, so we're going to have a UL, it's going to have a class of navbar nav, as well as ML-auto. Okay, so that's margin left auto. What that's going to do is it's going to move the UL to the right. So we'll have the branding on the left and the UL on the right. And then each LI is going to have a class of nav-item. Alright, nav-item. And let's see, inside here we'll have an A tag with a class of nav-link. Okay. And for the link here, let's say hash home. Alright, now I want this to go up to the top when we click this home link. So what I'm going to do is just give the body an ID of home so that it goes right up there when we click it. Alright. Let's see. So we're going to copy this whole LI. We're going to have a couple other links. So 1, 2, 3 more. Let's just push these over. Oops. What happened here? Alright, so the second one is going to be for explore. So I'm going to change this text to explore. We're going to change the href to hash explore head section, because each section is going to have a head, and that's where we want this to navigate to. This one right here is going to go to create. So this one will be create dash head dash section, and then this last one is going to be share, and you guessed it, it's going to go to share head section. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, and let's take a look. So we'll make this bigger, and there we go. Now we have all of our links. Now we're going to move on to our CSS, because we're going to add some CSS to our navbar as well as to the main body. So let's go to style.scss. Remember, we're using our Sass file here. And we're actually going to set a couple variables. So let's set a variable called bgcolor. Oh, it should be $bgcolor. And we're going to set that to a dark gray. Alright, let's also set the font color to white. Alright, and then we're going to have a primary color, so primary dash color, and that's going to be a hexadecimal value of $008 ED6. Okay, and that's it for now. So for the body, I actually want to add the background, which will be the BG color. And let's do color, which will be the font color. Alright, so if we go ahead and save that and we take a look, you'll see that it'll automatically update. So for the navbar, I actually want it to have, some opacity. I want it to be transparent a little bit and then have a blue border. So let's go down here and say navbar, and we'll say border bottom. Let's do the primary color. let's do 3 pixels, and let's do solid. All right, and then we're going to set the opacity. Opacity, I don't want it too much, so I'm going to set it to 0.8. And save. And there we go. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I want these to be displayed both at once. So I'm just going to put it in the responsive mode, I guess. I'll just make that smaller. And then we'll make this smaller. Alright, so there we go. Now you can see that this works as well. So we're good with the nav bar. Now we're going to move on to the home section, which is like the, I guess the showcase area. So we'll go back to our index and let's go under the nav, and we'll go ahead and put a comment in here, and we'll say home section. Okay, so this is actually going to be a header tag. We're going to use an HTML5 header tag. I'm going to give it an ID of, let's say, home-section. Okay, and then in here, what we're going to do is we're going to have an overlay over the image. Remember, it was actually, you know what? Let me bring up the actual project. All right, so if we look at it, you'll see that there's a dark overlay over the image. If we just did the image, it'd be too bright. We wouldn't be able to see the text, so we need to do that. So we're going to have a class right here called dark-overlay. All right, and then in here, I'm going to put another class of home-inner. And in here, we're going to have our container to constrain all the content to the middle. All right, now we're going to use the grid system. If we look at the project again, so this will be an 8-column div right here. This will be a 4-column. Okay, so let's say call, actually we need to do our row class first. So we'll say row, and then we'll do a call LG 8. Okay, so that's our 8-column. And let's do a call LG4. That'll be our 4-column. So in the 8-column, we're going to have an H1. And Bootstrap 4 has these heading display classes, which are really nice. So we're going to set this to display-4 as a class. And then we're going to say build social profiles and gain revenue and profits. All right, and then I'm just going to wrap build in, not build. Social profiles, I'm going to wrap in strong tags. All right. And then let's see, under the H1, we're going to put our flex containers. Now, let's go back to the final project. And then what we have is 3 different flex containers with 2 flex elements inside. One's going to be the check, one's going to be the text. So to do that, we're going to create a div with the class of d-flex. Okay, we're also going to give it a class of flex row, which signifies that we want it to go horizontal. We could also do flex column to make it go vertical. But we're going to go ahead and do that. And then what we're going to do is have a class of p-4. So this is actually padding 4. It's going to add padding all around the sides. And if you guys are interested in the spacing classes, you can take a look at this this documentation page here. So basically we can have M or P for margin or padding. Then we can have what sides we want. So for instance, PT would be padding top, PB would be padding bottom, and you can also do MT and B. X would be for both left and right, Y would be for top and bottom, and blank would be for all sides, and that's what we're doing. We're doing just P-4. So the 4 is part of the size, which can be 0 through 5, and they're basically just multipliers of whatever the spacer is. So P4 is going to be spacer times 1.5. Okay, so just know that you can have different levels of padding and margin using these classes. So we're going to do P4, and then inside that, we're going to do our font awesome icon. So this will actually be an I tag with the class of FA. And then the icon I want to use is going to be a check. So I'm going to do FA-check, and we'll tab that, and that's going to give us our icon. Alright, so if I were to save that, it's going to look like this. It's not going to look too good yet, but we'll fix that in a little bit. So let's see, we're also going to have another flex item inside the dflex div. So let's go right here and let's say another P4. I want padding on this as well. And I want to put some text. So I'm going to say lorem, let's do lorem 15 tab, which is part of Emmet. It's just going to generate 15 words. Alright, if I save that, you'll see that it automatically gets aligned because this is actually a flex container and these are flex items, just by putting this dflex. If I were to remove these flex classes, you'll see they're not going to align anymore. Alright, but let's put those back. And then I just want to make sure that this is aligned to the start and then this item is aligned to the end, so we can add those classes right here. We'll say align-self-start, and then this one here will be align-self-end. Alright, and then what we'll do is copy the entire dflex row because we want 3 of these checkbox areas. Let's see, that ends right there, so we'll just grab that and we'll paste it in 2 more times and save, and now we have our 3 areas here. Alright, now I'm going to make this bigger, and on this side we want to put our form. So let's go to our 4-column div, which is right here, and we're going to use a card for this. So we're going to say class card. We're also going to give it a class of BG primary, which will give it a blue background. We're going to make it text center, and we're also going to add the class of card form. Okay, card form is actually a class that I'm creating, so we can grab onto it later. It's not actually a Bootstrap class. So inside a card, we need a card body. So we're going to create a class of card body. Now in Alpha 6, this was actually card block, like this. So you may remember that if you've used Bootstrap 4 Alpha. It's now body. Alright, and in here we'll just put an H3. We'll say sign up today. And let's just add a paragraph here, and we'll say please fill out this form to register. Alright, and then under that let's put in our form. Oops, we don't need an action. It's not going to actually do anything. And in the form we're going to have a class of form group. Inside here we'll have an input, and it's going to have a type of text. Let's also give it a class of form control, okay, just like Bootstrap 3. Now we can also add a class of form control -LG, which will make it bigger, okay, make it wider, which is what I want. And then let's give it a placeholder of, let's say, username. Alright, so save that, and that's what it's going to look like so far. Don't worry about it being so far up, we'll fix that after. So let's see, we have our form group with the input inside. Now I'm just going to copy that, so the form group and the input that's inside, and we're going to paste in another one. Let me change up this this indentation here. I don't like this. Let's see, let's do 2, and then let's fix this up. There we go. Alright, so again we have the form group username, then we have the next one that I just pasted in. This is going to now be the email, so we'll change the type to email, and let's change the placeholder to email. And next we're going to have the password and the confirm password. So let's copy a form group again, paste in 2 more. Type's going to be password. Let's see, placeholder, password. This one here, type is going to be password. And then for the placeholder, we'll say confirm password and save. Alright, and then the last thing we need is a submit button, so that's going to go right above the ending form tag. We'll say input. Let's give this a class of btn, also btn-outline-light, and then also btn block, which will display it as a block, and change the type to submit. Okay, since it's an input submit, we also need a value for the text, and we'll just say submit and save. All right, so that takes care of all the markup for the home section. Now we have to work on the styling. So we're going to go to our style.scss file, and let's go ahead and put in a hash home section. That's what we wrapped everything in. And we're going to put a background image here. So let's say background, and we'll go ahead and set that to a URL. Now for the image, it's actually an image from pexels.com. So let's see, we'll go to pexels.com. You can also get this from the files and the link in the description, but this is where I got it. I think I searched for social. And let's see, it's, where the hell is it? This one right here. So this image here, and I grabbed the 1920 by 1280. So we're going to download that. Let's bring it into our project source, and I'm going to create a folder called img. And let's save it as home.jpg. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and throw that in here. So it's going to be in .. We want to go outside of our SCSS, or I'm sorry, our CSS after it's compiled, into image, and then home.jpg. All right, and then I'm just going to say no repeat, and let's save. So you can see that's what it's going to look like so far. At least the image is showing up. And we're going to set a minimum height here of 700 pixels. Save that. Okay, so now it goes down to 700 pixels. Let's set the background size to cover. Okay, we want it to cover the whole thing. So you can see now we can see the whole image. Let's also do background attachment. Background attachment, and that's going to be fixed. Okay, now we want to have a dark overlay. Remember, we can't really see the text like this. Remember, we gave it the class of dark overlay, so we're going to add that here. So dark overlay, and we're going to set the background color. Now for the background color, I want it to have some opacity. So what I'm going to do is set it as an RGBA value, and I'm actually going to create it as a variable up here. So I'll create a variable called dark overlay, and we'll set that to RGBA, and we're going to set it to black, so 000, and then the opacity will be 0.7, like that. Whoops. Just like that. We'll set the background color to the dark overlay variable, and that should do it. Now we want to position this as absolute. We want it to cover the entire area, so we're going to start at top 0 and left 0, and then we're going to set the width to 100%. With 100%, and let's also set the min height to the same as the home section, which is 700 pixels, and save. And now we have our dark overlay. All right, now we want to move everything down. So remember, we also had a class of home inner. Oops, home inner, and let's see, we're going to set the padding top of this to 150. I hate this keyboard so much, but I get too many complaints from my mechanical keyboard. It's too loud. And there we go. Now let's see, the card form right here, I want to add a little bit of opacity. So remember, we added that class card form, and we're just going to set opacity to, let's say, 0.8 and save. Now it has a little bit of transparency. And now the icons here, we want those to look different, so we're going to style those as well. Yeah. Oh, you know what I wanted to do actually is since we're using Sass, I wanted to nest all of these. Okay, because everything, all of these here are actually in the home section, so we can nest them. So we can just take these and put them right within here, like that. Save, and you'll see that still works. So for the FA, so for the font awesome, the icons, we're going to set the color to primary color. We're going to set the background to white. We're going to set the padding to 4 pixels. Let's set the border radius to 5 pixels. And let's set the size, so font size. And I'm actually going to create a variable for the icon size. So up here, we'll create a variable called icon size. We'll set it to 30 pixels. All right, and we'll stick that in right here. Save and take a look, and there we go. Now, if I go ahead and I make this smaller, you'll see that we have an issue now. Everything is breaking out of the image, out of that 700 pixels. What I want to do is I want to make it so that when it's less than a large screen, I want to get rid of this text right here and just have the form. So let's go back to our index.html, and there's actually a couple classes that we can add here. So we want to go to our LG8 column, which is this right here, and we're going to say D-none. Okay, so this is display none. And what that did is it took away that whole 8 column, but it did it for everything, for every screen. What I want to do is I want to display it on large screens and up. So we can add another class that will be D-LG, so large screens. Then we want to display it as a block, not as none. Save, and now we have it back. Okay, but when we go below large, it's just going to be the form, which is what I want. All right. So that part is now done, and that's basically the toughest part of this. The rest are pretty easy because they're pretty similar. The explore, the create, and so on. So let's go under the header, and let's say this is going to be our explore head section. So let's create a section with an ID of explore dash head dash section. And in here we're going to have a container, we're going to have a row, and this is going to be just a 1 column grid, so we're just going to use the call class. But I also want everything to be text center, so we're going to add that as a class as well. Alright, and then in here what we'll do is we'll have a class of P-5 so that we have padding 5 on all sides. And then we'll have an H1. I'm going to give that a class of display 4, which will just make it really big. So we have display 4 through display 1. Display 1 being the biggest. And like I said, in my course, I go over all of these types of classes. So if you guys are really interested in Bootstrap 4, especially the newer version, the beta version, I definitely suggest checking it out. So under the H1, we're going to put a paragraph with the class of lead, which was also available in Bootstrap 3. It just makes it more prominent. And then we'll say lorem 20 tab, which will give us 20 words. All right, and then finally under the paragraph, we're going to have an A tag, and we'll give it a class of btn, btn dash outline dash secondary. And let's see, it's just going to go nowhere. And then for the text, we'll just say find out more and save, and that's what it's going to look like. So there's nothing really else we have to add to the head as far as styles or anything. It's using the background of the body, which is the dark gray, and that's what I wanted. All right, so now underneath that, we're going to do the explore section. Okay, that was the head. Now we're going to do the section. So we'll give this a section tag of, we'll give it an ID of explore section. I'm also going to give it some classes. We're going to give it a class of bg-light, which is a Bootstrap 4 beta background class. Also a class of text-muted, which is just going to make it a little lighter. and then also some padding on the top and bottom, so PY-5. Okay, PY is top and bottom padding. Now in here we're going to have again a container. Okay, we're going to have a row, and we're going to have two 6-column divs. So we're going to do call MD-6, and we're going to have 2 of these. Okay, now on the first one we're going to have the image. So the image I also got from Pexels. So let's grab that. Whoops, I didn't mean to open Atom. Let's see. So the image is going to be, what is this image? Oops, that's not the right one. Where's the finished one? Let's see. So the image is going to be this right here, this mobile phone. So let's just search for mobile phone. And it's this one right here. So we'll click on that. As far as the size, I think I got the 1920 by 1280. We could do smaller, but let's just grab that because I think that's what I used. And then let's save this. We'll save it as explore-section1.jpg. Okay, make sure you save it in your LoopLab source image folder. Alright, and then we're going to go back and put in our image. This is going to have a class of image fluid so that it stays within its container element. We're also going to give it a little bit of margin bottom, so we'll say MB3. And then we're also going to give it a class of rounded dash circle. All right, and then for the source, it's going to be in the image folder, and it's going to be explore section 1.jpg. And let's save it, and there we go. So there's our image. So on the other side, we're going to have some text, kind of like what we have right here, our deflex. So let's see, what I'll do is actually copy what we did up there. So let's see, deflex, which ends right here. I'm just going to grab that. Okay, and then we're going to go down. And let's see. Actually, we're going to put some stuff before that. So in this 6-column div, let's put in H3. And we'll say explore and connect. And then under the H3 we'll put a paragraph, and I'm going to do lorem 30 tab, which will give us 30 words. And underneath that I'm going to paste in the deflex. Okay, so that's one, and then I want to paste in one more. And let's save, and that's what it's going to look like. Now as far as the styling, we need to add some styling to our icons. The reason that it's not formatted like this is because if we look at our SAS file, the FA that we styled is within the home section. It's nested within there, so that's not going to apply. So what we'll do is we'll add a class for the explore section, and then we'll put in an FA in here, and we'll style it. So I'm going to put a color of white. Let's see, what else? We'll do a background. Oops. What the hell? Background is going to be 333. Let's do padding 4 pixels. Why did it do that? Padding 4 pixels. And let's do border radius 5 pixels, and let's do font size, which will be the same as the other one, so it'll have the icon size variable. Save it, and that's what it's going to look like. So that's our explore section. Now if we click on explore, it'll bring us down as far as it can to show explore. Click home, it brings us back up. Alright, so next we have the, what is it, the create section. So let's go back and let's copy the explore head because it's going to be very similar. We'll paste that in, and this is going to be the create head. Okay, so we're going to change the ID to create head section, and let's see what else we're going to change here. Let's see. So I want this to be blue, so I'm going to give it a class of BG primary. And let's change explore to create. And I just want to change the button from outline secondary to outline light. And that should do it. Let's save, go down, and there's our create. So now for the create section, what we can do is copy the explore section, change that to create section. I copy and paste because I don't want you guys to watch me just, type out the same crap over and over, because these are very similar. So just try to follow along, follow the changes I'm making. So we're going to change the ID to create section. We're going to change for these classes, all I want is the padding class. We can get rid of the BG light and text muted. And then I want the columns to be reversed. So in other words, I want the image on this side and the text on this side. So what we'll do here is let's copy everything that's in this column MD6, which ends here. We'll grab everything in there, cut it out, and we're going to paste it right in this call MD6, and then just grab the image, cut it, and put the image in this one. Alright, and then let's go ahead and change this heading to, let's say, create your passion. We'll leave the text, that's fine. We'll leave all the flexbox icons, that's good. And let's see, the image. So the image is going to be, let me just take a look real quick, I forget. So the image is going to be this tablet thing right here. So let me search for tablet. By the way, Pexels is an awesome site for free stock images, really high quality stuff. So it's this one right here. And we're going to grab the 1920 version. We'll download that. We'll save it as create-section1.jpg. Alright, and then we'll go back and we'll just change this to create-section1.jpg. And let's see, I believe that this stuff, yeah, these classes will stay the same. So let's go ahead and save. Let's take a look. There we go. Now we have to style our icons again. So what we'll do is go back to our SAS file. Let's put in create section. Put in our .fa class here. And I want the same styling that we have for the home section. So I'm just going to grab all this. And we'll go ahead and paste that in and save. And there we go. So that looks pretty good. And now all we need now is the share section, the share head and the share section. So again, let's copy, let's copy the explore section again. So we want the head and the explore section. We're going to copy both of those. And notice how I break everything into sections. That's how I like to build themes like this, is just have a section for everything. And it makes it very modular. Alright, so let's go ahead and paste that in. And then we're going to change this to share head. And then that's going to be share head section. And let's see what else we want to do here. Let's add the class of BG primary. Let's change this to share and change the button to outline light. And then that should be good for the head. Now for the section, let's change this to share section. And let's see. For classes, yeah, we'll keep those classes, BG light And let's see, we do want the image on this side, except we need to get a new image, which is going to be, let's see what image it is. It's this one here, which I believe if we search for social, is that it? No, that's not it. It is, where is it? Maybe it's not under social. Huh. Search for share. Nope, that's not it either. Alright, you know what? Sorry for the banging. My wife and son just came home upstairs. But yeah, we'll just use this one. It doesn't really matter. We'll grab the 1920 and let's save it as share section1.jpg. Alright, and let's see, we're going to change this to share section1.jpg. Keep the classes, that's fine. For the H3, let's change that to share what you create. And we'll leave the flex checkboxes and all that. That should be good. Let's save. And now we have our share, we have our image. Now these I want to style, these checkboxes as well. And I want them to have the same styling as this, as the explore. So what we can do is go over here and just put a comma right here. I'm sorry, right here next to explore, and say share or hash share section, because then this FA is going to apply to the FAs inside of the share section. So we'll save, and there we go. So now we just need the footer, which is very simple. So we'll go down past the last section, and let's say main footer. This will also be a, actually no, it's not going to be a section, it's going to be a footer tag. We'll give it an ID of main footer. And I want this to be dark, so I'm going to give it a class of BG dark. And then let's give it a container and a row. And then it's just going to be one column, so I'm just going to give it a class of call, and let's also do text center. Okay, inside here, let's do a PY4. I want padding on the top and bottom. And we'll have an H1. This H1, I'm actually going to format it as an H3. In Bootstrap 4, we can give it a class of H3. And it'll be an H1, but it'll be the size of an H3. And we'll say LoopLab. Let's do a copyright underneath. So we'll say copyright ampersand copy semicolon 2017, and then we're just going to have a button underneath, give it a class of BTN and BTN primary. Okay, now this is actually going to be a modal. Let's say contact us. So modals need to have a data toggle attribute of modal. They also need a data target. For data target, we're going to say hash contact modal. All right, then we just need to create that. So let's go down below the footer. We'll say contact modal. So this is going to be a div with the class of modal. It's also going to have the class of fade, and also text dash dark. All right, we'll give it the ID of contact modal. Okay, so the ID should match this ID right here. And then it's going to have a modal dialog class, and it's going to have a modal content class. Oops, it should be modal dash content. Inside here, we're going to have a modal header div. And inside here we'll have an h5 with the class of modal-title. Okay, it's also going to have an ID. So hash, it's going to have an ID of contact modal title. And in the h5, let's just say contact us. All right, and then we want the modal body, which is going to go underneath. It's going to go underneath the modal header. So right under here, modal body. And this is where our form is going to go. Get rid of the action. So in the form, we'll have a form group, as always. And then we'll have a label. Let's say label for name. Okay, under the label, we'll have an input. Let's see, so the input will have a class of form control. And then what we'll do is we'll just copy the div with the form group. And we're going to have two more. Oops, let me just fix this. So we have two more. The second one's going to be for email contact. Okay, we can change the type to email. And then this one's going to be for message. All right, and message is actually going to be a text area, so we're going to get rid of the input type text and just put in text area, which also needs to have a closing tag. All right, and then we're going to have a modal footer, which is going to go under the body. So the body ends here, so we're going to say modal-footer. And inside here, we'll just have a button. We'll give it a class of btn and btn primary. Let's also do btn block, make it a block level element, and we'll say submit. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. And now if we click on the contact in the footer, we get a little contact modal. And that's it. So our navigation should work: explore, create, share, and home. And if we make this smaller, it should be completely responsive. Everything looks good. The modal still fits in there good. And our little hamburger menu works. So we've now built a Bootstrap 4 theme using Bootstrap 4 beta. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you really liked it, I would suggest looking into the course. We do a couple projects like this. Some are a little more difficult, but not too bad. So thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe if you're not. Please leave a like if you liked this project, and I will see you in the next video. So if you guys really like my videos and you learn a lot from them and maybe you have a couple extra dollars to spare, check out my Patreon page. I'm working on creating special content for patrons. You also get special deals on future courses, and there's even an email support tier for all YouTube videos and projects. To learn more, visit patreon.com/traversymedia.